Jacob after he comes out the hospital and his face is swollen and the bullet is still lodged in his soft tissue. And so my heart does go out to the family, and we haven't so far, or even in public, found out if Jacob healed up well or what's going on with him. So my heart does go out for that right there. I make a lot of jokes, but that is serious. Gun violence is. I don't know if it was on purpose or by mistake. I mean, you pointed at somebody, so it's kind of purposeful. Anyway, so they get to Ashley, David's oldest daughter's house to drop Jacob off because Jacob has to move back to Texas due to David not having insurance and not having a job. He cannot take care of Jacob the way Jacob needs to be taken care of. And so because of that, Jacob has to go to Texas to be with their mom. So I'm going to go ahead and say that David and their mom cannot be in the same room. Of course, they got a divorce and it was nasty. They can't be in the same room. So for Jacob to get to the mom, he has to stay at Ashley's house and get picked up from there. So while they're there, we see a really, really beautiful moment. To me, it was really beautiful. Annie has this rope. And she says in Buddha Thai culture, you wrap a rope around your wrist 3 times so that you can pray for the person while they're away. So they're sitting and they're having a conversation and they're talking about how Jacob almost lost his life. And just as they're about to let Jacob go to bed, she ties the string around his wrist, 3 strings around his wrist, and she says a prayer in her language. And she basically says, I hope that you heal well. I hope that you have healthy life and, all that stuff. And she's ties 3 around her wrist. I don't know how many people noticed it, but in order for her to be able to pray for him, she had to tie the same 3 strings around her wrist as she does. And she tells Jacob when he comes home, everything's going to be okay. And David starts to cry. And that's the first time that we seen, to me, I felt like we seen something in David that looked like he cared about his kids more than he cared about his wife. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't care about his wife, but sometimes David's decisions were kind of questionable in the last season. So I'm happy that we get to see David on a different level other than what seems like laziness to me. So that was awesome to see that. Ashley, the oldest daughter, tells David, listen, as they're leaving, I just want to mend fences. I just want everything to be okay. And I don't want it to continue on like this. Like, I don't want to keep having these same issues and these same problems. So whenever you have the chance, I want to sit down with you and talk some things out and get some things off our chest so that we can move forward, because I almost lost my brother and I just want to fix things. And David is like super happy and Annie's happy because they just want to get along. Everybody now just wants to get along. And so we'll see how that goes, you guys. I thought it was a really beautiful moment. Let's jump into, who do I want to talk about? I want to talk about Paola and Russ. The reason that I want to talk about Paola and Russ is because now they're in Colombia, and Paola and Russ have gone back to Colombia because her grandmother has cancer. Paola spent 2 days with her grandmother, and then they got on a plane and they flew 30 minutes to another part of Colombia so that she could see the rest of her family. As soon as they walk in, everybody's all happy and they're all lovey and they kissing and they hugging and they missed her. She hasn't been home in 4 years. And so they start questioning her. Like, as soon as she sits down, they start questioning her. Why haven't you been home? Why don't you call? Why don't you this? Da, da, da. And then somebody says, one of her sisters says, it's Russ's fault. And Russ says, no, it's not my fault. This is a decision that we made together. This is a decision that we both decided was best. And it's not my fault. I don't want you guys to think that. And so Paola starts to explain the situation, and she starts to explain how she was unhappy and Russ's whole time in Oklahoma, and she starts to explain how they went from Oklahoma. Russ lost his job, and then after Russ lost his job, they had to move to Miami, and she started working in Miami, and she's just basically telling them the 4 years of what has happened. And so her brothers go, it doesn't matter. There's no excuse for you to keep out of contact with us. Even if you couldn't get home, you call, you text, you talk to us. Like, there's no excuses. And she's like, you guys are right. And she starts crying because she feels guilty enough because her grandmother has been dying this whole time and she's just getting home. And it just breaks her down. So finally she's like, well, Mom, I had something else to tell you that I didn't want to tell you. And she says, right before they went to Colombia, she found out that she was pregnant. And then 2 days after the pregnancy, this is a little touchy for me, guys. 2 days after the pregnancy, she had to go to the hospital because she was having a miscarriage. And then she found out that due to her blood type, it would be hard for her to have a child. And even if she could conceive a child and carry it to term, the baby would need a blood transfusion. because of the type of blood that she has. And so she miscarried, and that just shut her down even more. So Russ is really, really supportive. He's like rubbing her back and just helping her through this. And she was like, I just didn't want to call you guys with bad news. Like, I just want y'all to be proud of me. And another one of her older brothers were like, we are proud of you, Paola. Like, what do you mean? Like, we're proud of you, but you have to communicate with us. You have to talk to us. And you have to let us know, because you can tell us anything. We're your family. And she cries more, and everybody hugs and kisses, and they kind of move through it. And that's what she lets us know about the miscarriage in her private interview. So there's no point in me repeating. She said exactly what I just said. And so then the next day, her and her oldest brother, the oldest of the 7 of them, I think she said 6 or 7 of them. So the oldest, Paul is the baby. So the oldest brother takes her and Russ out to a park because he wants to talk to her. He wants some clarification, and he wanted to do it without the entire family sitting around. And so she clarified everything for him. She cleared it up, and she let him know, she just wanted everybody to be proud. She didn't want to call home with bad news. She didn't want to call home sad. She didn't want to call home unhappy. Like, she was trying to do what she felt like was right in that situation. And, all Russ did was support her through it. And so the brother appreciated her clarifying everything, and they had a really beautiful moment, and they hugged and they kissed and they hugged Russ. So nobody blames Russ for this anymore. And I just thought it was a really good way to go, because when we watched the first episode, I thought they were going to tear into Russ. And they started to, but I'm happy Paul stepped up, and she was like, no, listen, this wasn't him. He was just supporting me. This was just a decision we made together as a couple. Don't put this all on him. I'm just happy she did that. That makes me happy to see a couple stand together, because that's the way it's supposed to be. So I wanted to talk about them because it was a little bit of a soft spot. And of course, I'm always rooting for Paul and Russ, because they argue, but they don't get nasty with it. You know what I mean? Like Molly and Luis, who we're about to talk about. So Olivia moved out. Molly's oldest daughter, Olivia, moved out because she cannot do